Hello, and welcome to Lesson 4 of C.1, the Polar Ice Unit. I'm Meijin Chia, a high school teacher using OpenSciEd and an OpenSciEd facilitator. In this video, I will give an overview of Lesson 4 and wrap up with some tips and tricks. Lesson 4 provides opportunities for students to practice using mathematical thinking, as well as planning and carrying out an investigation. First, let's briefly recap on how we got to Lesson 4. At the end of lesson 3, we conclude that energy entering a system with higher atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration is less likely to exit that system compared to a system with lower atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration. So, in this lesson, we are wondering if there is more energy being kept within Earth's system, what would happen if Earth's ice melted? Let's take a look at this lesson at a high level. Lesson 4 takes three 45-minute days. It involves a hands-on investigation where students measure changes to water level for a sea ice system versus a land ice system. Two-thirds of the 60 minutes of material preparation listed here is to prepare the materials for the lab. Students do not need to use their individual digital devices unless you would like them to explore the NASA sea level rise simulation on their own later in this lesson. Links to the additional related videos noted here are provided in the teacher edition of this lesson. There are three lesson chunks in this lesson. Let's see what is happening in each lesson chunk. In the first lesson chunk, students are given key information to calculate the estimated sea level rise due to Greenland and Antarctica ice melting separately. At the end of lesson 9, they look at the NASA sea level rise simulation and wonder why NASA scientists did not include Arctic sea ice melting. In the second lesson chunk, students plan and carry out an investigation to figure out that land ice melting causes sea level to rise, while sea ice melting doesn't, since sea ice is matter that has entered the ocean and thus has already displaced the water. In the third lesson chunk, students use mathematical thinking to estimate the impacts of sea level rise. So in summary, in this lesson, students estimate that sea levels would rise almost 7 meters if all of Greenland's ice melted, and another 55 meters if all of Antarctica's ice melted. Regardless, even a 0.5 meter of sea level rise would have a great impact on the human population. This helped motivate a brief brainstorming discussion of ways to prevent the ice sheets from melting. Let's take a look at the key moments in Lesson 4. Lesson 4 is the first time in this unit that students practice using mathematical thinking to solve a problem, which in this case is to estimate sea level rise if Greenland or Antarctica's ice sheets melts. This is one instance where it's important to go slow to allow for student sense making. I definitely made use of the scaffolds in parts 4 and 7 to guide students through the mathematical problem-solving process. I found success with, firstly, partner or group work to figure out how to calculate volume of Greenland ice sheet, then sea level rise if Greenland's ice sheet melts. Number 2, walking through a completed solution with the class and all the necessary assumptions. And then number 3, having students repeat this entire process individually for volume of Antarctica ice sheet and sea level rise if Antarctica ice sheet melts. In part 10, the land ice melting versus sea ice melting lab is the second lab in this unit. Unlike the carbon dioxide lab, a step-by-step procedure is not provided to students for this lab. However, the process is scaffolded, and students then use the scaffold to plan and conduct the lab with their lab group. To give students more thinking time, I usually motivate the lab in the class session before the lab is conducted and provide the slides that scaffold the thinking process to students to look over before class. In part 14 of the lesson, students use mathematical thinking again to estimate the impact of sea level rise on the human population. Students are introduced to the concept of population density. Importantly, they have to work through a more complex unit conversion, which I will discuss further in the tips and tricks section. Considering the human impacts of sea level rise then motivates students to brainstorm ways to slow or stop polar land ice melt. After a brainstorming session, the class wonders if scientists, engineers, or policymakers already have thought about solutions that mitigate land ice melting. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some strategies for this lesson. For the mathematical problem solving in parts 3 through 9, I found that students had difficulty in understanding sea level rise as a change in sea level. They tend to want to figure out the volume of the ocean and the current sea level, but what we are interested in is the change in sea level when melted ice enters the ocean. This is where a physical model may be useful. The teacher edition suggests using a chunk of clay to represent the ice sheet, and then flattening the clay to represent melted ice spreading out over the ocean. In this lesson, we assume that the volume of melted ice is equivalent to the solid ice volume. Once students understand the concept of density in lesson 9, you may want to have a brief discussion about how the volume of melted ice is slightly less than the solid ice volume at around 0 degrees Celsius. In parts 14 and 17 of lesson 4, students use mathematical thinking again. Instead of a simple length conversion that they did earlier in parts 3 through 9, students have to convert area from one unit to another unit. Diagramming may help students understand why they have to square the length conversion factor. Since I have a longer class block and classes meet every other day, I wanted lab groups to collect data within one class session for the land ice melting versus sea ice melting lab. For a more measurable change in water level, I use smaller diameter cups. I also realized that to encourage students to actually mark the initial and final water levels, it is better to use a cup without volume graduations. While water level change in the land ice system is related to the volume of melted water that gets added into the color water in the cup, I want students to realize that the change in water level, a length measurement, is not the same quantity as a volume measurement. In part 13 of lesson 4, the teacher edition describes the learning activity as revising the initial consensus model from day 1 of lesson 4. I changed this lesson activity to revising the initial consensus model from lesson 1, which answers the question, why and how is sea level rising? Because lesson 4 is the final lesson for lesson set 1. While we do not have all parts of the mechanistic explanation, I found it useful to have students articulate which questions we have either fully or partially answered, what we have figured out, and in which lesson. Students are introduced to the term cryosphere at the start of lesson 4, unit conversion and assumptions as part of the mathematical thinking learning activities, and then land and sea ice prior to the lab. In this lesson, we start the mathematical anchor chart and add to the investigation anchor chart. There will be additions to both of these charts in future lessons. Well, this is lesson 4 in a nutshell, and this lesson wraps up lesson set 1. This lesson has multiple opportunities for students to engage in three-dimensional thinking. I hope you find this video helpful and join us for lesson 5, where students navigate into lesson set 2. Thank you.